why be the person that hates grapefruit? Be the person that just loves avocado. And that's the thing. It's like you could define yourself by everything you hate. You're like, I hate grapefruit. I'm that guy, Or you can just be like, I'm passionate about things. And this thing, like avocado lights me up and it makes me happy. It's like a completely different way of looking at something.
Probably one of the most intense moments, was when Patrick's babysitter decided to come back to speak with your team again, after she had time to think about, what she said initially. That's probably a director's dream from a filming perspective. And I was just wondering, like, if that changed the course of the documentary at all.
Of course. And just in case some of the stuff we said before wasn't recorded, I did want to re-compliment you on your voice.
Right.
It's very, very soothing. And before I mentioned that, it was a very organic joke in that, you could guide me into meditation. Oh, the first take was so much better. Anyway, your voice is great. But when it comes to Lori sitting down and talking with us, the babysitter, she actually worked for Barney as well. She was an educator herself. So she had this like long career in Barney and did a lot of good things in Barney. But when we talked to her the first time, I mean, it's a lot to ask someone to trust that you are going to do a good job with the things they're going to say. Everything that we talk about with regards to the family of the creator of Barney, it's in our documentary. It's self-contained in the whole world around it. We're talking. It's not like a black and white issue. There's a lot of grays. A lot of things happen that lead to certain things. So it's difficult to talk about like out of that sort of context. And Lori, she's seen some of my other movies. She trusted me, but still, at the end of the day, like I'm a stranger. But she's so to trust someone blindly just to kind of tell this thing that is very delicate to talk about. I think the first go around, she was a little bit more guarded, and I think it says a lot about her character that she felt like that wasn't right and she could probably give more. So when she emailed me saying, I think I could do a better job. If you're back in Texas again, let's do it. And we took advantage of that in that she wanted to tell, she felt like she could honestly tell things without sounding mean or out like saying something bad about a person. It was just, these are honest things. And yeah, it's talking about that sort of the gray,
Right. Yeah. And it definitely worked from the perspective, like building that up. Cause I remember, I think it was at the end of the first episode where that happened, where she's like, there was a scene that says, that she's coming back. It's like, yeah, I felt like I can do this better. It worked really well. Cause it just like wanted you to keep on watching. Obviously.
Yeah. I didn't want it to feel like a dirty sort of tease, but it was an honest thing that happened. We spent, a good like 2 hours with her for the first interview. And then when she wanted to sit down with us again, we got into, maybe another 30, 40 minutes. So, I mean, this is the interview. It's been cut down. You're not going to see that much. The whole movie is about Lori, the babysitter. But yeah, so you know what I mean?
Right. Definitely. So here's something I have to ask about, that whole famous San Diego chicken that was interviewed, so this is the chicken, who beat up Barney on the football field, the mascot. I'm just wondering, I was just so interested in the fact that the person is basically coming at it as if they're a chicken, they're not a mascot. I'm just wondering what it was like talking to that person. I guess it was that person's idea to be like that.
Yeah, so the San Diego chicken, and I'm not like a real sports fan, so the San Diego chickens is like really famous mascot apparently. For years, we go to different baseball parks, football parks, whatever the things, and perform and do like halftime sort of shows. And one of the things he would do was beat up Barney. This is the heyday of Barney. And they would have a dance competition, and one thing got aggressive, one person pushed another, and one thing led to another, and the San Diego chicken is beating up Barney. Right. So that was the thing. And then when we spoke to Ted, who is the San Diego chicken, on the phone, he's like, I just want to let you know that I will only appear as the San Diego chicken. So, and at first I'm like, what is this guy's crazy? And then you think about it like, no, that's perfect. That's great. The documentary about Barney interviewing a man dressed in a chicken outfit. That's what we're doing here. And, I still to this day do not know what Ted really looks like. I only can tell like this much of his face because like you can see some of it through the chicken. But he was interviewed as Ted the chicken, so there's no like weird, crazy character building sort of stuff. But yeah, he only does interviews dressed as the San Diego chicken.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Now to segue to something kind of more serious. I just thought it was really compelling, how you or your team, decided to interview Shannon Foley Martinez, the hate activist. And I just thought, like, without giving anything away, what her main thing that she said, it really worked. Like, it made so much sense why she was there. But I'm just curious, like, how you got into contact with her or why, just because you wouldn't think it's like, oh, for a Barney documentary, I'm going to interview like an anti-white supremacist person or someone who's recovering from that. It worked well. I'm just interested in how that came together.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I think that's what, like, Shannon's a former neo-Nazi, she made some really awful decisions earlier in her life but was able to turn her life around. And in doing so helps people get out of those sort of hate groups. So she's really, now a great person, how she's just done so much good after she, obviously did so much bad. But, it was interesting for us to talk, like, if we're talking about like where hate comes from, and like the way children's programming usually does stuff is they try to teach the simplest form of that. When Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, like, Mr. Rogers was popping balloons to talk about that noise, and it would transition into what was happening and talking about, really the horrors of what happened. Or with us, where it's like, we're like, okay, well, this is hate on the simplest form, where someone might think, oh, it's whatever to hate Barney. There's no consequences. And you can slowly see that there is, your words do have actions even in that sort of way. But like when we talk to, Shannon, who, was in a real hate group, it's like she very clearly says, I'm not saying if you hate Barney, you also hate some of the things that I hate, but the behavior system is not so far off. Choosing what you hate, it's never about Barney. It's never about the thing. It's about how that thing makes you feel. And like you're starting to look inward and trying to feel like, well, why do I do this? Why do I feel this way? And it was really important to us to kind of like make that connection as loose as it could be, but as tight as it could be as well.
And kind of going off of this as well, so there were those two anti-Barney people that you ended up interviewing, the last leader of the Jihad Barney site and the Barney Secret Society creator. On the surface, they're very interesting people, which works. But what I thought was just so amazing is that at the very end, they kind of do this 180 where, before they're like bashing Barney still, it's like, yeah, man, I'm glad I did those things. But then, the Jihad guy, he was basically, took a step back and was able to say how his actions may have affected others. And then the Secret Society guy was able to say how much Barney helped him. And I'm just wondering if that was your intent when you started talking to these people, like you wanted to kind of end on a happier note, or was that just how it turned out?
Yeah, we wanted to leave the documentary with hope that, love could win, and, if we try to like just be better people, better things could possibly happen sort of thing. But, with the creator of the I Hate Barney Secret Society, what's so fascinating about him is the things he talks about, where it's like, your child's a Barney addict or you're a dysfunctional family. As you start talking to him, you learn where his hate sort of comes from, and it's like, and it's sometimes it becomes so obvious, like, oh, even like online today, it's like, oh, so-and-so doesn't like this. Well, it's like, oh, this is what it's saying about you. And this is how you're feeling. This is the mask you're wearing because of how it makes you feel, and the Jihad Destroy Barney, the guy who was running that website, they talk about how they were early internet. Like they were before like AOL starter kits, they were on Usenet, and the language in which they use to talk about things is definitely, progressed into the way we talk online now. And he does feel somewhat responsible. It's actually been a while since I watched the movie, but I know he said this to us. I think some part of it is in the movie, but it was just like there was this part of the group where it splintered off because some people were like, oh, well, Bob West, the voice of Barney, is going to be at an event. Let's throw pie at him or pizza or something like that. And they're like, oh, we don't do this in the real life. We're just this parody thing. So there was this divide in like real life sort of stuff. And you could totally see like that's the start of like 4chan and all that sort of way of like thinking, I mean, even when we talk to Sean, I like Sean. I think he's a good person, even though I think he thinks he's not the best person in the world. But like, you could just totally see that's like early internet behavior and early internet attitudes, especially in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so incredible just to say like, yeah, I might have been like helped 4chan. It's just kind of, it's wow. It hits you for sure.
I mean, everything just kind of leads to it. And you just think about it, it's just, Barney was that thing, early internet, the first time we can collectively go on a thing to talk, like rally around something that we all hate, and build an identity that way. I mean, it's just everything.
Something else that I thought was really cool. So near the very end, I don't know if this was planned or not, but I just really loved it. How at the end, when the Blues Clues host, so Steve Burns, he turns to the camera and he asks, who is your Barney? And then various interviewees answered him. So there was that point where he's talking normally to the camera, and then all of a sudden the camera shifts and he asks that question. I was wondering if that was planned or did that just happen, just because it really hit me, just because it's like, oh, who is my Barney? So I started asking myself that. I'm just wondering how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. That was something that was a mixture of plan and a mixture of Steve. I was reading just like a lot of books about stuff as we were doing this research, and I was like, I just don't want anyone to think like, well, it was just Barney, he was annoying, and like I was too old for Barney, so the Barney hate doesn't affect me in a way that someone who grew up with Barney would. But like, what would affect me? Who was my Barney? And I was like, oh, that's it. We need to talk. We need the audience to like think about who their Barney is, to like fully understand this way of like thinking, or just like a way of like not sort of just bash this thing that others would like, So I asked Steve, I was like, I want you to say something like this, and we asked him because he has that relationship with the audience where he can just look into the lens. But it was Steve going, he's like, wait, but everyone's looking in this lens. I'm going to look at that lens, and that break, that turn, I think gets a lot of people and they get emotional. And that's like one of my favorite parts of the movie. But yeah, it's like, so it was a combination. Like we wanted him to address this, who's your Barney? But the way he did it was like the most amazing, powerful thing. And Steve Burns is just the best.
I'm actually curious. I'll just ask, like, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but who's your Barney? I'm just curious.
Cookie Monster for sure. Oh, I like how you thought I wouldn't answer that. I'm giving that to myself. Cookie Monster was for sure my Barney, but also like I throw in Scrooge McDuck from time to time because I love Scrooge McDuck. I think he's the best, but he wasn't like your first. Like Cookie Monster, I think was my first. Like, I mean, when did DuckTales come out? Like 85, 87 maybe? And it's like, I was already like probably 5 or 6, So it's a little bit different, but Cookie Monster for sure. Who was your Barney?
So mine was actually, I had to think about, but it's Thomas the Tank Engine. Like I was obsessed with him because I was trying to think. I was like, is Steve going a little too far? It's like, would I care? And I was trying to think like I was thinking, I was like, oh man, if someone did something that's Thomas, that would, it's like, I love that guy or that train or that engine.
They're all fictional characters, but they mean something to us. It's not someone that your parent introduced you to. It's not someone that was a family friend. Or it's a thing that you saw, and there's something inside of you that goes, this is my guy. This is the thing that I love. This is the thing that's going to make me happy. And it's the first time that happens. So it's, I'd be so bummed if someone was beating up Cookie Monster. And then just knowing what that feeling is, like just that feeling of love. Like there's this one thing that Shannon, our former neo-Nazi, talks about in the movie, but it's not as long-winded as I'll say it. But like she talks about like why be, and she uses these fun examples, like why be the person that hates grapefruit? Be the person that just loves avocado. And that's the thing. It's like, you could define yourself by everything you hate. You're like, I hate grapefruit. I'm that guy, or you can just be like, I'm passionate about things. And this thing, like, avocado lights me up and it makes me happy. It's like a completely different way of looking at something. So it's like, okay, you don't like Barney, but it's like, let's talk about Cookie Monster,
Yeah. I'm glad you went back to it. I mean, just because, hearing from someone who comes from such a dark place, it makes you really think more. Like, this is someone who was just all hate. And now they're able to, take a step back and just use it as like a forewarning of like you were saying, like, you're not going to become a neo-Nazi just because you hate Barney, but by making it your identity, that's kind of the first step. And it's like, wow, that's right.
People wear their hate like it's like a jacket. Like, it's just like a thing they put on, and it's not good for anyone. It's not good for our health. It's not good for the person you're hating, and it's just, she, if we interviewed her when she was in it, she'd be a completely different person, but she changed her life around. And I love hearing stories about people going, wait, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I need to fix myself. I need to get out,
I think we're probably out of time. I think this was a 15-minute interview. So, I mean, I'll just end by saying that another part that I really liked was when there's first like a scene where everyone's chanting Barney, 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 and then immediately like overdubs over the sound of people going, Jerry, Jerry. I thought that was really good editing. I thought that was really cool, just because it kind of shows the difference of TV at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was always our idea to like sort of like do it like a zipper. Like, it's like the good stuff that was on TV versus like the stuff that was a little bit more aggressive. And we had some amazing editors in this movie, but I'm quite positive that was our idea of my producing partner, Trent Johnson, where they're like, let's just mash it together, like Barney, Jerry, it's just like, yeah, all these things. It's like what the child wants and what the adult wants,
Yeah, definitely. Well, I gotta say, so, respect your time. I just gotta say, this was a great documentary. I'm glad it's out there. It really makes you think. And this is great. I'm looking forward to other stuff that you'll be doing in the future, but this was good.
I'll tell you this one thing, and hopefully you can include this. I'm doing another project.
Yes.
It's called The House From. Oh, that's my father-in-law coughing upstairs. It's called The House From, and it's about people who live in famous houses from movies and TV shows. So it's like, what's it like to live in the Full House house? What's it like to live in the Golden Girls house? Halloween, Friday, all these sort of houses we've been to, and we're doing a Kickstarter for it. Like, Barney's the big project. This is the smaller project, right? So we're going to be releasing ourselves next year. If you go to thehousefrom.com, just check that out, and you can be a part of the Kickstarter. And it's this fun project about, what it's like to live in a famous house.
That is kind of awesome. Yeah. I'll definitely include that in the article for sure. That's awesome. I want that to happen.
Yeah. So we did like 17 different houses. Like Friday, I'm going to Albuquerque to do some more filming, but it's a fun one. And so, we're doing it ourselves.
Perfect. Well, I look forward to that, and hopefully, more people will get to your Kickstarter campaign, because
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, I meant it. I love your voice.
Thanks. And I love your documentaries.
Oh, thank you so much.
Have a good one. Thank you.
You too.